Hey guys, welcome back to my comic review series on IDW Sonic the Hedgehog, where I cover each and every issue. Today I am doing a review of issue 10, which is the second part of the Battle for the Angel Island arc. Before I begin, I'm going to provide some recap before we head into the current story. Sonic and all the Resistance members he encountered in the first 8 issues meet up in the HQ room after finding out about Neo Metal Sonic's main plan on taking over Angel Island, which he had successfully achieved. Amy demystifies the plan to save Angel Island from the psychopathic robot by splitting up into 3 teams, Blaze on Team 1, Sonic and Knuckles on Team 3, and the rest on Team 2. They hop on board to the Resistance battleship and eventually make it onto the island to carry out the task, and each team do their own respective work, which involves getting rid of the flagships and its inhabitants. For Team 3, however, things have gotten much more intense now, as Neo Metal Sonic has just transformed into Super Neo Metal Sonic, further proving that he's not going to be easy to take down. And it all leads up to this issue, where the fight will resume. The main cover for this issue, as usual for IDW standards, is very enticing and incredibly wonderful. All the heroes are shown in the foreground while depicted in unique poses and serious expressions, doing their best to save Angel Island from Neo Metal Sonic, who looms behind them in the background. And if it wasn't already obvious by the art style, this was made by Adam Bryce Thomas, who has previously made the cover A arts for the last issue. I've already commented on how amazing this man's art is in my previous reviews, so I don't know what else I can say about it that I haven't already said before, other than the fact that he's one of the best artists ever for the IDW series. With all that said, let's do the story analysis for issue 10. Neo Metal Sonic, now in his super form, goads Sonic and Knuckles into battle. Sonic shows a slight form of confidence of defeating him as soon as he figures out how to, while Knuckles exhibits annoyance at the fact that Metal Sonic is upgraded and can go super, which is cheating. Bro, I get your frustration, but this is a fight for survival, not a tournament contest. Neo Metal charges up an energy orb and launches it at the heroes, who barely evade it. Sonic promptly instructs Knuckles to secure the Master Emerald so that Neo Metal cannot absorb power from it as he keeps him occupied, with Knuckles replying that it's a dangerous risk and that Sonic might be crushed by Neo, but only if Sonic is capable of distracting him long enough, to which he puts it as, only if he catches me first. And right at this moment, Neo Metal approaches them at a very quick speed, grabs and slams their heads into the ground, bashes them into each other, and shoots them with electricity, injuring them greatly. As a result of things currently not going so well as intended, Sonic, while stating that he's just getting warmed up, hopes that the others are doing better than they are by this point. As such, we cut to Team 2 still fighting the Badnik Horde with the real superpower and teamwork, as they all combat with their own unique abilities. Also, this is the first time we see Tangle and Whisper working together. This is almost like it's giving us a hint on them being another iconic duo in this series, but more on that later. During the battle, Tails notes that they're not making much leeway, but Amy says that they cannot fail either and must do what it takes to win. Tails then forms a plan and has Amy cover for him, who announces to the rest of the team to quickly provide backup for Tails as well as he commences the strat. She also checks in on Blaze for her current status, to which Blaze responds that she's still doing her best and will join them soon. Blaze mentions that while the enemies cannot inflict damage on her, they only slow her down, and also has to take into account that she must be quick in this form as she can only maintain it for a limited amount of time. Without wasting more time, she prepares one final attack where she charges up a huge fireball shown through 3 panels before launching it down to annihilate the entire left wing from the Egg Fleet. Another sick Blaze moment. As the wing plummets down to its apparent demise, Blaze safely floats back down and he transforms out of her super form and feels relief that she succeeded, although she becomes fatigued. Elsewhere, back in Windmill Village, we see Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik, Mr. Tinker, who is an amnesiac, nicer version of the character, playing a guitar while singing a song to the children who are playing around in his theme park, which he called Eggman Land. See my issue 5 and 6 reviews for more details. He is met by 2 strangers who are rough and tumble. Yep, they're back. And somehow out of jail for some reason after they were defeated and apprehended by Sonic and Knuckles in their debut issue. They come up to him and mention that a doctor speculated that something is off about Mr. Tinker, and they swiftly kidnap him. Is there yet another mysterious figure among us? Is that the reason as to how Rough and Tumble escaped from jail? So many anonymous allusions that lead to a lot of questions. Cutting back to the fight on Angel Island, Silver holds the Egg Pawns back with his psychic powers to keep them away from Tails, who takes control of one of the Egg Fleet ships, gets it to go airborne, and shoots down the second wing of the island. However, this ends up recklessly catching the teammates off guard, as evident by Vector's shocked expression, and Tango, who sarcastically tells Tails to watch where he's flying. Rouge helps out Amy, who violently states that a little warning would have been nice, but Amy defends this by claiming that Tails was practically raised by Sonic, who isn't known for having patience anyway. I bet Ian Flint's detractors are gonna get heated by this line. They go on a conversation about Shadow, who went off on his own, to which Rouge criticizes, but deduces that he's very likely tracking down the strongest threat, who is obviously Neo Metal Sonic. Amy, annoyed by Shadow initially ignoring her plans, does eventually ease up as it could be a potential backup for Sonic and Knuckles, to which Rouge agrees. Also, I love this whole bit with Tangle where she carries Vector onto the ship and goes, "Woo! Made it!" I love this character so much. We cut to Team 3's progress as Sonic is fighting Super Neo Metal, giving Knuckles time to secure the Master Emerald, but Neo Metal stops him and backhands him away. That pose though. He looks down on the fallen duo, claiming that he has once again defeated Sonic and didn't even need to use his final form. Just then, we get a Deus Ex Machina moment as Shadow appears out of nowhere and strikes Neo Metal with a Chaos Spear into his torso, causing him to lose his super form. He gets beaten a few times by Shadow until he is pushed back on his throne. Before Shadow can deliver the next blow, Sonic stops him and says that Neo Metal will copy his biodata too. Shadow, being aware of this, thinks it wouldn't be enough for him to transform, but Sonic says that he can still absorb Mr. Edgelord's powers and become much stronger. If this was Archie Shadow, he would definitely think twice before committing this tactic. Knuckles rudely pushes them out of the way in an attempt to get to the Master Emerald. Is Shadow trying to bite his finger here? Ew. Unfortunately, it's too late as Neo Metal begins to emit energy. He tells Mr. Edgelord that Eggman had upgraded him to his form, removed a limitation he previously had. He now has the biodata of Sonic, Shadow's biodata as the ultimate life form, and the Master Emerald. Oh god, he's gonna transform into that behemoth from Sonic Heroes again, will he? As his transformation begins, Knuckles and Shadow persist in attacking to prevent it, but with no avail. This prompts Sonic to request a tactical retreat as Neo Metal's stronghold is folding in on itself. They all escape as the shield begins to grow even larger, which destroys the Eggman statue in the process, leaving Knuckles' shrine in its former state. I love his expression here. The ground soon begins to rumble, and the Master Emerald has been cut off from Angel Island, which is the cause of this predicament. Remember what Knuckles said in the first cutscene of his story in Sonic Adventure?
Oh no, it's starting to happen! Without the Master Emerald's power, this whole island will fall into the ocean!
We get another amazingly drawn panoramic shot, which also features a series of close-up panels of Neo Metal Sonic's final and true form, the Metal Overlord. Yep, this form is back and is still more monstrous as ever like in Sonic Heroes. This concludes the issue's story. Like issue 9, rereading this issue for this video made me remember how hyped I was about reading this whole arc to see where the current story will pick up from the first two sagas by this point, and they still absolutely peaked here and I loved every second of it. First off, this issue is the first in the IDW series to feature two different art styles, as not only did Tracy Yarley take part as the artist, but Evan Stanley steps in to take over at page 12, where Sonic and Knuckles continue battling Neo Metal, showcasing a shift between the already compelling art styles in the same book. The first time I read this 2 years ago, I was always flabbergasted on this random style change, as normally for the IDW Sonic series, at least at this point anyway, it's usually one artist who participates in doing the art for a single issue, then another takes over for the following issue. But for this particular issue, as well as the next future ones in the comic's lifespan, they got two artists to contribute to one single story. According to another IDW Sonic reviewer named Mega Beatman, recommend checking out his channel by the way, he makes good content, this is a thing that also happened in the Archie series where it pretty much had the same instances. Now, I've read a lot of Archie Sonic when I was younger, both the older and modern ones, so I never actually noticed any art changes in any issue I've read. Yeah, I was a dumb kid back then. And the reasons for the art changes depend on the circumstances of an artist who takes part of an issue that's being created, and based on the information that I've gathered, I feel like that it's got something to do with strict deadlines, which is no stranger to Sega at this point. This issue was originally going to be released in October 24th in 2018, but was delayed to the 31st of that month, which replaced the Team Sonic Racing adaptation comic that was supposed to be released in that week, but was also delayed twice in order for the IDW team to be on the same page as Sega. All this was explained in a screenshot from what I assume is from one of the staff at IDW. So for those wondering why there's an artwork change in this issue, there's your answer. That being said, both art styles still work and fit completely well for all these characters, mixing it up with the simplicity of Tracy Yardley's style and the comical/expressive style of Evan Stanley. Knuckles' expressions are especially the biggest highlight of this particular style. So overall, both Tracy and Evan did a spectacular job on collaborating with each other with their own art styles, and I look forward to seeing more collaboratives in the future issues. Next highlight in the issue, Neo Metal Sonic revealing his true colors. Gotta thank that one public figure for giving me the idea for this review's title. At the end of the last issue, he transformed into this form with the power of the Master Emerald. Unfortunately, there is still no factual explanation on how Eggman programmed this ability in for Metal Sonic, but there was at least a limiter he formerly had before it was removed. I wonder if that's the reason he was even able to go super. I know I'm likely wrong about this since I'm only just speculating, but you're free to correct me in the comments. Now let's discuss the pros and cons of this form. Pros. While the form is still a Super Saiyan-esque transformation, such as having more powerful abilities and granting high speed to outwit opponents, there are a couple of interesting moments about the form that I really admire, like how in this panel where he basically command grabs Sonic and Knuckles and drags them across the floor, which is very brutal even for Sonic standards. Also, is it just me, or does this remind anyone of the move Baby used against Vegeta in Dragon Ball GT while possessing Gohan's body? And also, can we talk about this random pose he makes when he hits Knuckles? Bro is literally just showing off for no reason. Cons. This form had minimal showtime. This is the only issue in the IDW series to feature this form, and I'm disappointed that it never came back, even in its recent appearances. So it seems the form was utterly wasted and was only used as an excuse for it to look cool for a simple fight scene. And the fact that Shadow was even able to strike the super form out of Neo Metal makes about as much sense as Knuckles easily punching the super form out of Sonic, which in of itself also only exists to show how intense and seemingly powerful Knuckles was, and only for the sake of advancing the plot with no elucidation. However, Super Neo Metal Sonic has made an appearance in an official game, Sonic Speed Simulator. In case if some don't know, Sonic Speed Simulator is a multiplayer online game that was released in 2022 in the form of a Roblox requirement in order to play. I still have yet to play this game, but from what I've seen of it, it looks alright. I'll definitely get around to playing it at some points and maybe potentially showcase it for future content. But anyways, getting straight to the point, the game features an event in which players can battle against Super Neo Metal Sonic as a boss after finishing an entire event. The boss fight itself looks hella cool, and it even recycles the What I Made Of theme from Sonic Heroes. Also, this promo render for the event in the game is freaking awesome! Big shout out to Whisper Wolf on Twitter for bringing this to my attention. Please give her a follow if you haven't already. And another cool thing about this render art, it was designed by a well-known figure in the Sonic fandom, Nibrock Rock. I've been a fan of that man's work for a decade now, and it's really cool how he still makes super clean renders that are akin to the official artwork. So be sure to give him a follow as well. In short, I'm disappointed with how little this form was showcased, at least so far at the time of this review, but unfortunately, we gotta fit in that 20-page mark as that is still in occurrence by this point. And I will talk more about his Master Overlord form, and yes, that is what the form is called in this series. Yeah, based on the information I gathered while writing the script, I just now found out about the new name for this transformation. So forgive me for the minor mistake of calling him Metal Overlord earlier in this review. And the transformation itself shown through a panoramic shot is another highlight. And next highlights are the references, allusions, and callbacks with provided trivia. First, an egg pawn emotes with an exclamation point before it's about to be destroyed. This is the exact same exclamation mark speech bubble from Sonic Heroes when enemies are approached by the players. Second, in the same panel, Rouge uses bombs to dispose of them, which are the same ones from one of the Sonic Generations missions in City Escape. Third, an unnamed song that Mr. Tinker sings is a parody of a few lyrics from Dr. Eggman's theme song from Sonic Adventure 2. I won't play the song since it doesn't actually have the lyrics derived from there to hear, but to those who are familiar with both that and the song itself, will catch the illusion. Fourth, Neo Metal's malicious laugh after being attacked by Shadow is almost the same from the last story in Heroes, where he revealed himself to all the teams. And fifth and last, Master Overlord, his final form, refers to Sonic as his loathsome copy. Another line from the same game which has always lived in my rent-free since I was 8 years old. And that's all the references I've been able to catch and analyze. Being a Sonic fan for 20 years and knowing every bit and piece of the franchise ever since, these are always one of my favorite parts of writing these reviews. The reason being is that these are not only catered to just Sonic fans, but to anyone who doesn't know much or haven't really gotten into the franchise yet. And IDW definitely comes up with a way to introduce new fans. Unlike the Archie series with tons of its convoluted story arcs within the first 13 years of its run, until issue 160 where Ian Flynn took over as the main writer for the rest of the series. Also, if you're gonna tell me that this man is the worst Sonic writer, don't even bother on my videos and just get out. Not that hard to accept the truth. So for this issue, I am giving it an 8 out of 10. Much like the last issue, all the characters are still well portrayed and greatly utilized, the dynamics between them, mainly Amy and Rouge, was still great, and the badassery of Neo Metal Sonic in his super form. My only critiques are the little screen time of his super form, and the minor / rare inconsistencies with the art style, mainly on the Evan Stanley portion of the issue. Ian Flynn, as always, delivered another good storytelling for this arc. Of course, this wouldn't be a full in-depth review without going over the variant covers, which has been a mainstay since the first issue, but has since been limited to just 2 by issue 5, each with unique ways to catch the reader's view. Let's discuss them. Cover B showcases Super Neo Metal Sonic in a cool pose as he flies from his throne, ready to challenge his opponents. You can also see the Master Emerald in the background too, which all ties in perfectly to the events of this issue. I really love this one, and it's another one of my favorites in the IDW series, and it's especially great that we got one final glimpse of this form. This was drawn by Tracy Yardley, and one thing I noticed with the art style choice he used for Neo Metal here is how he's brightly yellow colored in comparison to how he's more orangish dark yellow colored in the actual issue. Very impressive touch by this talented artist. Next and last is the RI cover, which pays obvious homage to the title screen of Sonic & Knuckles, the second half of Sonic 3 for the Sega Genesis. I've always had a soft spot for that game's title screen, since my first experience of playing the classic Sonic games on Genesis and Game Gear were through the Sonic Mega Collection Plus on the PS2 and Xbox, and I've even redrawn it once too when I was younger. Even the background is nearly the same, only with the exclusion of the Death Egg. Nathalie Fordrain once again peaked with this 10th variant cover she has made. Each time I see art from her on covers like this, it would always bring me joy. This artist seriously deserves a lot of credit for her work on these, and I look forward to seeing her next one. So overall, both these variant covers do a pleasant job on getting readers thrilled on knowing what the current story is about, and the respective skill and talent from both artists are visually captivating and very honorable. And that's it for my IDW Sonic issue 10 review. It continues to show what made IDW Sonic so great, and this arc alone continues to keep me hooked up on it, and its ongoing story is still just as peak as it was in the previous issue. If you made it this far in the video, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this whole review. Next time we'll be looking at issue 11, where the arc will reach its ultimate climax and perhaps a potential conclusion. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.